So, I want to talk about boundaries and the challenges that we have around them, whether we're setting them or on the receiving end of them. I think this is really important. We don't talk about this a lot. I'll share my experience as a neurodivergent person with boundaries, but it may not be an experience that other people share. But I have a sneaking suspicion that sometimes this might be a common experience for autistic folks. It's taken me 42 years to learn how to set boundaries and to say no really comfortably to people. And I think how I started out with that was probably really well related to the last live I did, where I talked about outsiders meaning well, but making life sometimes a little bit more challenging for our neurodivergent families because of the judgment or the criticism that we face. So sometimes families will have this situation where they need to create distance from people that are not so great for them in that moment in time. And I want to say that it's okay to not have to tell people all the things. It's okay to create distance in a way that feels easier for us to start with, because boundary setting takes practice and it takes time. And I don't think as neurodivergent folks we're ever really great at it, because sometimes I know for me being deeply empathetic means that my compassion and my forgiveness often trumps my ability to care for myself. I'll often compromise my own well-being and even my intuition, because for a long time in my life I've been conditioned socially and culturally to think and behave like a non-autistic person, or to be something that I'm not. So I think it takes a really long time, and I think there's never a point in time where we arrive. I think it fluctuates and it changes. So for me, it's something I revisit often, but I began by just not answering my phone as often. Now I barely ever answer my phone. It was just, sometimes I would say, I can't make it to that social event. I do this a lot, I know, I'm really aware. Sometimes I would say I can't make it, I have a migraine, or I'm not feeling well, because I needed to create distance or space or be able to say no, but I wasn't feeling supported enough to be able to say no. I wasn't feeling comfortable enough or safe enough. Sometimes people talk about having the courage, and I know I have, having the courage to be able to set boundaries. But I want to say that it's really important to invite the discussion around privilege to be a part of this conversation. So many of us have been victims of gaslighting and abuse, and we've had people in our lives that aren't safe. And so we may never be in a position where we are courageous enough to set boundaries. It's not about that. It's about feeling safe enough to set boundaries. And if we are struggling to be able to say no to someone, that is a really good indication that we don't feel safe with somebody. If we are concerned that our no will be received as a threat, or that they may try and exercise some control over us, then that is a good indication that we're not safe in that relationship with that person. I know who my safe people are, because I know my best friend, as an example. I could always say, nah, not up for that. I can say that inside my own family, nah. In fact, one of our family sayings as PDAs is, nah, not doing it. And it's not a problem. I'm heard. With the people that are safe for me, I'm heard. No, I don't really want to do that, but thanks for asking. Thanks for thinking of me, but yeah, not feeling it today. It's never a problem. But I've also been in a situation when I was younger where people around me were growing and changing, and with that came a change in their boundaries. And I think I had to learn that other people having boundaries is not about me being rejected. It's not about me having done anything wrong for them to create or set those boundaries. Sometimes those boundaries are about it's always about their well-being. When we create and set boundaries, it is about setting up safety for ourselves. And I know also that I had to learn that other people having boundaries is not personal. It's not about me. It's about someone exercising their right to be safe and well. And as the person who sets boundaries with others, I've also been privy to people on the other end of those boundaries thinking that I'm rejecting them, or that I don't like them anymore, or that they've done something wrong. And it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just about me reflecting every so often when I find myself in a space of being distressed or overwhelmed or not feeling so great, or being exhausted all the time, or tired, or irritable, or anxious. Those are all signs that something's got to give, something's got to change. And so I take stock of my life. It's kind of like opening a cupboard and cleaning out the Tupperware and going, okay, I haven't used that container in about 2 years and it's taking up a whole heap of space in my cupboard and I can't fit anything new and practical in there. So that old one's got to come out and it's got to go. That's how I take stock of my life and boundaries and relationships, business practices, health and well-being practices, my relationship with my children, my whole life. And so having boundaries is so important because it's about looking after ourselves. I think it's okay to practice making our way to being able to give a comfortable no. Some of us will be afraid to do this because there will be consequences from our unsafe people. And some of those consequences that we have experienced in the neurodivergent community will be that people will take it personally and go off and speak poorly about us behind our backs. And that's okay. That's what people will do, and it's got nothing to do with me. So I can let it go. I can say no to somebody and they can have whatever response they need to have or reaction, and they can go off and speak poorly about us. But that response that they're having just reaffirms that boundary that we've set. If I say to somebody, I need space for a while, and they keep coming back at me, not giving me that space, then that just reaffirms for me why I need that boundary in the first place. And I will repeat myself, or I may even take further steps to remove that person from my life or my space. It really depends. But it's really hard when you've grown up having your boundaries walked all over, not having them modelled, and not having a sense of safety. So when you are an autistic person, there's also sometimes this whole backstory of trauma where people have violated our boundaries, and we have to learn what safety is. We have to learn that we have permission and the right to safety. So that comes first. It's not about people not having the courage to set boundaries. It's about people feeling safe enough to set boundaries. What do you do when your teen says nah all the time to self-care and hygiene? Well, each person would have a different response to that. I can't answer for other families, but in my family, I would be accepting of that, because the more I pressure for them to do something about their self-care and hygiene, the more they're going to be unable to do it. Because if it's PDA we're talking about, that's disability, and demand pressure only feeds it. The anxiety of ignoring calls, texts, emails still causes so much guilt and anxiety. Learning though, Tanya, me too, I used to be there too, but then I realised that what was related to that anxiety of ignoring calls or texts or emails or getting to them later was the level of safety I felt with the people on the other end of them. So it wasn't about me necessarily doing anything wrong or bad. It was really a reflection of the safety in my relationship with those people. Because again, my safe people, if I don't respond straight away, they never give me a hard time about it, ever. My 17-year-old person refuses to set safe boundaries for themselves and puts herself in unsafe situations despite calm chats and low demands. Yeah, that is something that 17-year-olds can struggle with. The teen years, in terms of brain development, the brain is in the risk-taking stage. It's also in the years where we are developing our sense of identity away from our parents. We're learning to separate and become our own person, which is why we tend to reject a lot of what comes from our family, and we want to be as independent as possible. But being neurodivergent has its own set of challenges there with boundaries as well, and I think it's really tricky when we are PDAs. That's why my favourite time to take annual leave is around Christmas, New Year, because the entire uni is on leave, not so many emails to catch up on. Whereas today I'm on leave during semester 2. I hate to think what my inbox will be like tomorrow when I return after one day. Oh, Penny, I totally understand this, and I really hope that you can enjoy your rest, because I know what it's like to be on leave and to know what's waiting for us at the other end, and then to dip in there to try and take the anxiety away, but then getting stuck in there and finding ourselves working when we're on leave. It's a really tricky thing to navigate. Okay, everyone, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for joining me. Bye bye.